just amazing. Welcome to Ranger Reviews, a web series where we look at episodes of the TV show Power Rangers and then discuss them. Today we're exploring the 21st episode of the show, Power Rangers Turbo, as well as the 226th episode overall titled The Wheel of Fate. We begin this episode in the submarine, and Elgar has found something to bring to Divatox, giving directions to the Piranhatrons. They look into a treasure chest, finding gems and jewels, but most importantly, she finds a parchment that has 2 drawings of cars on it. She says they've been missing for eons, and she asks Porto to bring her a monster named Dreadfeather. She then explains to Elgar that this star chart shows the locations of the Lightning Cruiser and the Storm Blaster. They are the 2 most powerful vehicles in the universe, so she needs them in order to be on top. Then Dreadfeather comes in with Porto and she begins to explain her plan to him. Dreadfeather is flying through space in the Omega Quadrant looking for the cars which are hidden in asteroids. He takes a break on an asteroid sitting down. Then the asteroid starts to rumble and he flies up as the thing cracks in half. A red and blue light escape, heading toward Earth. TJ and Justin are walking outside talking about some dumb idea they have about a machine to do their own homework while they're sleeping or whatever. They see the blue and red lights zip by and they go check them out. Meanwhile, Lightning Cruiser and Storm Blaster land in an alley and Elgar, Piranhatrons, and Dreadfeather show up, trying to take control of the cars, but they're apparently sentient, closing their own doors, locking themselves up. Elgar gets into Lightning Cruiser eventually, and the 2 cars take off, with Lightning Cruiser kicking him out. They turn the corner. TJ and Justin walk out into the road and they turn around to find Lightning Cruiser and Storm Blaster coming their way. They run away from the 2 cars and stupid Justin falls onto the ground. TJ tries to help him, but the cars just stop right in front of them instead. They run up to see that there are no drivers, and Justin immediately knows that these are the things in the sky earlier. Then Elgar, Dreadfeather, and the Piranhatrons show up and Elgar says to hand them over. TJ says no because it's pretty clear the cars don't want to go with them, and Elgar says you catch on pretty quick for a new guy. I'm glad they're at least acknowledging this. Then they fight off the monsters from the cars, and then Dreadfeather puts a net around Storm Blaster and Justin, teleporting them both away. TJ is freaked out and the monsters leave. TJ calls Alpha right away, updating him about Justin getting abducted. Then Lightning Cruiser violently slaps TJ's ass, knocking him down. TJ tries to get into Lightning Cruiser for help to find Storm Blaster, but Lightning Cruiser clearly has trust issues, speeding away until it stops short, sending TJ flying over it. Then it just allows TJ to get in. Why? Was it just like messing around? Then it just takes off and TJ is trying to take control, but then he gets ejected again. Now TJ is like facing off with his damn car in the middle of the road, and it turns around, but TJ runs up to it, climbing onto the side of it. Imagine how cool this is supposed to be if it were Tommy doing this. TJ gets inside the car again, speeding off. Then we see that Bulk and Skull are working construction for Stone's cousin, and they're just going to do the stop and slow sign duties until the concrete there is dried. They decided they're going to build muscle from holding up their arms all day. I missed them, which is weird. Then Lightning Cruiser comes speeding around the corner, coming toward the site, and TJ can't stop the car at all. Then TJ just changes the gear and screams as jets in the back of the car make it take off into the sky. Also, Bulk and Skull fall backwards into the wet cement while the other workers laugh at them. TJ's now in the air and Lightning Cruiser has wings. And now is when it finally forces the seatbelt on TJ. He gets beat from the others and they see him on the viewing globe, and Cassie asks where the hell he is. He says he'll explain later, but TJ says he's picking up on a signal from a warehouse that basically has itself hidden. They decide to meet up there to save Justin. Shift into turbo! Green, yellow, and pink arrive outside, getting down to watch the situation. Carlos has a plan. We also see that Justin is in chains while they've tied up Storm Blaster with Elgar mocking it. Then the Piranhatrons are walking around, a rogue tire goes by, hitting them. They go see what made that happen, and above them are the green, pink, and yellow Rangers, who come down and take them out. Feel like they didn't need the tire for this. Inside, Justin is yelling for them to leave Storm Blaster alone, so Elgar starts slashing at it, causing sparks. Justin gets free, and he uses Elgar's own sword to free himself from the chains. Shift into turbo! They find the door is locked outside, so they use the turbo ram cannon, blowing the door down. What if Justin was just sitting there? Oh, just kidding, it did nothing. That's weird. They call TJ, updating him, and TJ says he'll be right there. Justin is still fighting off the baddies inside, and then he sees TJ coming in from above. But before TJ arrives, Storm Blaster puts a seatbelt on Justin, pulling him inside the car. Then he uses a magnetic grip, latching onto Lightning Cruiser in the sky and getting pulled away from the warehouse, flying through the air. Then it disengages, landing on the road, followed by Lightning Cruiser landing. Divatox then shows up in front of Elgar and Dreadfeather, screaming at them for failing so miserably. Dreadfeather says he needs something just as powerful to defeat the cars, and Divatox shows off a new bronze car of her own. Elgar will drive it, and the Piranhatrons will follow. Then Bulk and Skull have finally smoothed out the concrete again, and Elgar and Fam go by in the bronze car, pushing them back into the concrete. My favorite part of this is that Elgar is singing to himself while driving. TJ updates Alpha about how everything's figured out now, and suddenly Lightning Cruiser and Storm Blaster put new turbo insignias on themselves. Elgar shows up and Justin starts driving through the baddies, while Dreadfeather gets on the back of the Lightning Cruiser. Piranhatrons are following Justin, who stops and turning, knocking them off of their bikes. Meanwhile, TJ is kind of freaking out, just driving into things, trying to get rid of Dreadfeather. Finally, he punches him off, but then he gets fired at by the Piranhatrons. TJ takes this moment to finally call in some backup, but now Dreadfeather is flying, firing at the cars below. Then Elgar goes by and Carlos jumps onto the back of the bronze car, trying to take Elgar out. He also asks if Elgar learned how to drive via mail order, and Elgar says, "Nope, can't read." I love this. Ashley and Cassie take out some Piranhatrons. Justin uses the grappling hook to get Dreadfeather down, and TJ is taking flight again, firing at Dreadfeather and firing at him until he just explodes into pieces, which is kind of graphic. Then Elgar slams on the brakes, kicking Carlos off the car, so Carlos just shoots at the car with his auto blaster over and over again until the car blows up. Elgar leaves pissed off. TJ lands and the others run over as Justin pulls up. They all see that Lightning Cruiser and Stormblaster are awesome additions to the team. On the ship, Divatox is screaming at Elgar for ruining his plan, and he has a cartoon map he drew for treasure in Hawaii, but Divatox says, "Oh really? Hawaii? Maybe you should swim there," kicking him out. At the construction site, Stone's cousin is screaming at Bulk and Skull for being terrible, and we see if they've been dried into the concrete. On the road, the Rangers have taken the cars out for a spin. They talk about how amazing they are again. The end. Okay, I low-key officially love Power Rangers Turbo. This is what this show should have been from the start. I mean, the concept of the most powerful cars in the universe is totally dumb, but the fact that they're sentient makes up for it a bit. Also, the action for this season has been ramped up tenfold for some reason. I mean, I was really interested in all the action that was going on there, which hasn't happened to me since maybe a bit toward the end of Zeo. Overall, I think this episode was a great introduction to two new things in the Power Rangers artillery, and I'm really stoked that they didn't even have to shove a Megazord battle into the fight. I don't even know if there was one in the Japanese footage, but I'm just glad it's not here. I have to say, they're finally treating Justin with a little bit more respect as a character. It's no longer pandering to him because he's a kid. Now instead of being a child who is a ranger, he's a ranger who happens to be a child. I love that because it just works so much better. Next time is a very, very famous episode of Power Rangers Turbo that includes some infamous lines. But until then, may the power protect you.